Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Pioneer watching the stars stretch into lines as they dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The year was 2157, and humanity had finally built ships that could cross the galaxy in weeks instead of centuries. This was their first real mission to meet other intelligent life forms, and Jake felt the weight of representing his entire species. Lisa Parker looked up from her science station with excitement in her eyes. She had been studying alien signals for 20 years, and today she would finally meet the beings who sent them. The Galactic Council had agreed to this meeting after receiving Earth's diplomatic messages. 12 different species ruled this part of space, and humanity wanted to join them. Rick Davis checked his weapon systems one more time. Even though this was supposed to be a peaceful mission, something about the alien responses had seemed cold and distant. He had served in 3 wars, and his instincts told him to stay ready for trouble. The Pioneer carried 200 of Earth's best people, including scientists, diplomats, soldiers, and engineers. They represented every nation and culture. On Earth, Jake had handpicked each crew member for this historic moment. Today, humanity would take its place among the stars. The massive space station appeared on their screens, like a metal city floating in the void. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Dozens of alien ships moved around it in perfect formations. Each vessel was sleek and elegant in ways that made human ships look crude and rough. Before they could dock at the station, a fleet of ships appeared around them. These vessels were huge and covered in weapons that glowed with strange energy. The lead ship was 3 times larger than the Pioneer and shaped like a massive insect with wings spread wide. A communication came through on all frequencies. The voice was cold and clicking like an insect trying to speak human words. Jake activated the translation system and listened as the alien spoke. Admiral Vextar of the Zilani Empire introduced himself as the voice of the Galactic Council. His words were polite, but Jake could hear the contempt underneath. The alien explained that they had been watching Earth for many decades. They had seen human wars, human pollution, and human primitive technology. Vextar called humans barely evolved primates, who still used chemical rockets and crude nuclear power. He said humanity was classified as Category 3 primitive species, which meant they were not ready for galactic civilization. The Council had decided that humans needed re-education to learn proper behavior before they could be trusted in space. Jake felt his anger rising but kept his voice calm. He explained that humanity had come in peace and wanted to learn from older civilizations. They had much to offer, including art, music, literature, and scientific discoveries. Earth had overcome its wars and united as one people to reach for the stars. The alien admiral laughed in a sound like breaking glass. He said humans were violent children playing with dangerous toys. Their ships were held together with metal bolts and powered by controlled explosions. Their computers were simple calculating machines compared to true artificial intelligence. Humanity had nothing to teach anyone and everything to learn. Lisa tried to scan the alien ships, but their technology was beyond anything she understood. Energy shields, gravity manipulation, matter converters, and weapons that could tear apart atoms. The difference between human and alien technology was like comparing a stone axe to a laser rifle. Vextar gave Jake an ultimatum. The humans could surrender their ship and submit to re-education camps where they would learn to be proper galactic citizens. They would be taught to abandon their primitive ways and accept guidance from superior beings. In time, humanity might be allowed to serve the Council in simple tasks. Jake looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. These were good people who had dreamed of this moment their entire lives. They had imagined sharing knowledge and friendship with alien races. Instead, they found beings who saw them as nothing more than clever animals. The captain made his decision. and told Vextar that humanity politely declined their offer. Humans would find their own way among the stars and did not need re-education. They had come seeking equals and friends, not masters and teachers. The alien admiral's response was immediate and violent. Energy beams lanced out from the Zilani ship, striking the Pioneer's shields. The bridge shook as power fluctuated and warning alarms filled the air. Rick returned fire with their best weapons, but the human lasers barely scratched the alien hulls. Lisa managed to download massive amounts of data about the alien ships during the battle. Her sensors recorded everything they could about alien technology, tactics, and weaknesses. This information might save humanity if they survived to use it. Jake ordered a retreat as their shields began to fail. The Pioneers' experimental engines pushed them into faster-than-light travel just as the alien weapons prepared to fire again. They escaped by seconds, carrying the terrible news that humanity was not welcome in the galaxy. As Earth grew larger. On their screens, Jake wondered what they would tell the people waiting at home. The universe was full of intelligent life, but those beings saw humans as primitive creatures who needed to be controlled or destroyed. The age of human innocence was over, and the real struggle was about to begin. President Helen Brooks sat at the head of the emergency council table as reports flowed in from around the world. The Pioneer had returned 3 days ago with news that changed everything humanity thought about their place in the universe. Every major leader on Earth was connected through quantum communication. Links waiting to hear the full truth about what happened out there. Jake Morrison stood before the assembled leaders, looking older than his 45 years. The encounter with the Zilani had shaken him deeply, but his voice remained steady as he described their meeting with Admiral Vextar. The alien had dismissed humanity as primitive creatures unworthy of joining galactic civilization. Dr. Alan Carter reviewed the data that Lisa Parker had managed to collect during their brief encounter. The aliens possessed technology that seemed like magic compared to human science. Energy weapons that could disintegrate matter, ships that bent space and time to travel faster than light, and artificial intelligence systems that had been running for thousands of years. Yet as Alan studied the alien data more carefully, he began to notice something strange. The technology was incredibly advanced, but it also seemed frozen in time. The designs were perfect and efficient but showed no signs of innovation or experimentation. Every ship was identical and every system followed the same patterns. General Pete Williams had been preparing for this moment since the first alien signals were detected 20 years ago. The Global Defense Initiative was humanity's most secret project, involving technologies that even most world leaders knew nothing about. Hidden research facilities had been working on projects inspired by small pieces of alien technology that had been recovered from previous encounters. Pete explained that Earth was not as defenseless as the aliens believed. Underground factories had been producing experimental weapons for decades. Orbital shipyards hidden behind the moon were building vessels using revolutionary propulsion systems. Quantum computers were developing battle strategies that no human mind could fully understand. The Zilani ultimatum arrived exactly 1 week after the Pioneer returned to Earth. The message was broadcast on every frequency and translated into every human language. Admiral Vextar gave humanity 1 Earth year to surrender unconditionally or face what he called pacification by force. Commander Amy Nelson took charge of Project Deception, which was designed to make Earth's defenses appear even more primitive than the aliens already believed. Fake radio transmissions spoke of muskets and cannons being prepared for the coming invasion. Old nuclear weapons were moved to visible locations, where alien spy probes could detect them easily. The deception worked perfectly because it matched what the aliens expected to see. Their spy probes reported that humans were preparing to fight. with primitive chemical weapons and crude nuclear devices. The Zalani commanders laughed at human preparations and began planning what they expected to be a simple conquest. Amy's team worked day and night to make sure the aliens saw exactly what they wanted to see while the real preparations continued. In secret, advanced manufacturing facilities were disguised as simple factories. Quantum research labs were hidden inside what appeared to be agricultural buildings. The most powerful human weapons were built to look like farming equipment and construction tools. Dr. Susan Miller led a team studying the alien spy probes that watched Earth from orbit. These devices were incredibly sophisticated, but they operated according to strict programming that could not adapt to unexpected situations. The probes looked for specific signs of technology and ignored anything that did not match their pre-programmed search patterns. Susan realized that the aliens thought in straight lines and expected other species to do the same. Their technology was based on perfect mathematical principles that created predictable results. They could not imagine that other beings might approach problems from completely different angles, or find solutions that violated their logical systems. Colonel Ben Harris supervised the construction of what appeared to be primitive space stations in Earth orbit. The alien probes classified these structures as crude metal constructs held together with simple welding and powered by basic nuclear reactors. In reality, each station housed advanced quantum weapons that could punch through any known defense system. The breakthrough came when Dr. Kevin Stone discovered that human brain patterns were uniquely suited to quantum computing in ways that alien minds could not match. While alien brains were logical and efficient, human thoughts moved in chaotic patterns that could process quantum information at incredible speeds. Kevin's team began developing hybrid bioquantum computers that used human neural patterns to control quantum processing systems. These devices could calculate solutions to problems that would take alien computers thousands of years to solve. More importantly, they could adapt and learn in ways that purely artificial systems never could. Captain Maria Rodriguez commanded the first squadron of human fighters equipped with reverse-engineered alien technology. Her pilots were training in ships that looked crude and primitive on the outside but contained technology that surpassed anything the aliens had ever seen. The vessels were designed to survive damage that would destroy more elegant alien craft. As the one-year deadline approached, Earth transformed into something the aliens could never have imagined. Every major city became a center of innovation, where humanity's greatest minds worked together in ways the rigid alien society could not understand. Scientists shared discoveries freely, engineers combined ideas from different cultures, and soldiers learned to fight in ways no military manual had ever described. The aliens continued to monitor Earth through their spy probes, confident that the primitive humans would either surrender or be easily defeated. They saw exactly what they expected to see because they could not imagine that any species would deliberately appear weaker than they actually were. Helen Brooks addressed the world on the final day before the alien deadline expired. She spoke of humanity's long journey from caves to stars and reminded everyone that they had always survived by adapting to new challenges. The aliens saw primitive creatures, but they were about to discover that being different did not mean being inferior. The Zalani fleet began moving toward Earth, expecting to find a world of frightened animals ready to submit to superior beings. Instead, they would encounter a species that had turned their greatest weakness into their most powerful weapon. The war for humanity's future was about to begin. The Zalani invasion fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system like a swarm of metal insects against the black of space. 500 ships arranged in perfect geometric formations began their approach toward Earth, confident that the primitive humans would surrender at the first sight of such overwhelming force. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, reviewing the intelligence reports from the spy probes that had been watching Earth for the past year. The humans had indeed prepared for war, but their efforts were pathetically inadequate. Crude nuclear weapons, chemical rockets, and metal projectile weapons were no match for Zilani energy shields and plasma cannons. Dr. Susan Miller watched the alien fleet approach from her hidden command center buried 3 miles beneath the Rocky Mountains. Her team had been tracking every alien ship since they entered the solar system using sensors the invaders could not detect. The aliens moved in predictable patterns following battle formations that had not changed in over 1,000 years. Captain Jake Morrison commanded the human defense fleet from his new ship, the UES Defiant, which had been built in secret during the past year. The vessel looked like a crude metal box held together with bolts and welds, but its hull contained quantum armor that could absorb energy attacks and redirect them back at enemies. Lisa Parker served as Fleet Tactical Coordinator, operating the TACs and redirect them back at enemies. Most advanced computer system ever created by human minds. The bioquantum processor used patterns from her own brain to calculate battle strategies in ways that no purely artificial system could match. The machine thought like a human but processed information faster than any alien computer. The first engagement began near Jupiter, where 30 human ships faced off against 100 Zilani vessels. The aliens attacked with textbook precision using energy beams that could vaporize normal matter in seconds. Their targeting systems locked onto the human ships and fired with mathematical accuracy. Zilani weapons struck human shields and simply disappeared as the quantum armor absorbed the energy and stored it for later use. The alien computers could not understand what was happening because this violated every known law of physics. Matter was supposed to be destroyed by their weapons, not strengthened by them. Commander Rick Davis led a squadron of fighters in what appeared to be a suicidal charge directly at the alien formation. At the last possible moment, his ship scattered in 12 different directions, moving in patterns that seemed completely random. The alien artificial intelligence systems tried to predict human movement, but failed because humans did not think in logical sequences. Captain Maria Rodriguez implemented what her pilots called the crazy odd maneuver, using Jupiter's massive gravity to slingshot her squadron around the planet at impossible speeds. Her ships appeared behind the alien rearguard while their weapons were still focused on the frontal attack. The surprised Zilani vessels found themselves under fire from directions their tactical systems said were impossible. The hidden orbital platforms around Earth revealed themselves for the first time as what the aliens thought were primitive space stations unfolded into advanced weapons arrays. Dr. Kevin Stone's quantum targeting systems locked onto alien vessels with precision that exceeded their own technology by orders of magnitude. Energy beams lanced out from the human platforms, striking Zilani ships with surgical accuracy. The alien shields designed to stop random attacks could not adapt to weapons that learned and evolved during each shot. Human quantum computers analyzed alien defenses in real time and modified their attacks to exploit every weakness. Colonel Ben Harris commanded the orbital defense network from a station that had been disguised as a simple communications relay. His weapons did not fire energy beams or projectiles, but instead manipulated space and time itself. Alien ships found themselves trapped in gravity wells or stretched across impossible distances. The battle raged for 6 hours as both sides tested their weapons and tactics against each other. The aliens had superior numbers and firepower, but humans had adaptability and unpredictability. Every time the Zilani computers calculated a response to human tactics, the humans changed their approach completely. Amy Nelson coordinated the overall defense strategy using principles that no military academy had ever taught. Her forces moved like water flowing around obstacles, finding the path of least resistance. then striking where enemies least expected. The rigid alien command structure could not adapt quickly enough to counter such fluid tactics. Dr. Alan Carter monitored the battle from Earth, analyzing every piece of data the human sensors collected about alien technology. He discovered that while the Zilani possessed incredibly advanced systems, they were also completely dependent on automation. The aliens had forgotten how to think creatively or adapt to unexpected situations. The turning point came when Lisa Parker implemented Pattern Delta, a tactical system based on mathematical chaos theory. Human ships began moving in patterns that appeared random but followed deeper mathematical principles that only quantum computers could understand. The alien targeting systems were designed for predictable opponents and could not lock onto vessels that moved in true randomness. Jake Morrison led the final assault, personally diving his ship through the center of the alien formation while his quantum armor absorbed everything the Zilani could throw at him. His weapons fired in all directions simultaneously, creating a sphere of destruction that no alien computer had been programmed to counter. When the smoke cleared, 40 Zilani ships had been destroyed or disabled, while humanity had lost only 3 vessels. The surviving alien ships retreated in disorder, their perfect formations broken and their confidence shattered. For the first time in millennia, they had encountered an enemy that refused to fight by their rules. Admiral Vextar stared at his tactical displays, unable to comprehend what had just happened. His fleet had been defeated by primitive creatures using technology that should not have been possible. The humans had somehow turned their weaknesses into strengths and their chaos into order. The alien commander sent a message to the Galactic Council reporting that the human species was far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. These were not primitive animals that could be easily conquered, but something entirely new that threatened the established order of galactic civilization. As the battered Zilani fleet limped away from the solar system, Jake Morrison knew that this was only the beginning. The aliens would return with larger fleets and more advanced weapons. But humanity had proven something important to themselves and to the galaxy. They were not primitive creatures begging for acceptance, but a force that would reshape the universe itself. News of humanity's victory spread across the galaxy faster than light itself, as alien communication networks carried reports that seemed impossible to believe. The primitive humans had not only survived the Zilani attack but had actually defeated a superior force using technology that violated every known scientific principle. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session on their capital station as representatives from 12 species debated what this meant for their 1,000-year-old civilization. Some argued for immediate negotiation with the humans, while others demanded that overwhelming force be used to crush this threat. Before it could spread, Admiral Vextar stood before the council assembly, his insect-like form trembling with rage and humiliation. His report of the battle near Jupiter was met with disbelief and accusations of incompetence. No primitive species had ever defeated Zilani forces, and many council members refused to accept that humans could be the first. Dr. Alan Carter worked around the clock analyzing captured alien technology from the destroyed Zilani ships that had been recovered after the battle. What he discovered changed everything humanity thought they knew about their enemies. The advanced alien civilizations had become prisoners of their own perfection. Every alien device followed the same basic principles that had been established thousands of years ago. The technology was incredibly sophisticated, but it never changed or evolved. Innovation had been replaced by refinement, and creativity had been sacrificed for efficiency. The aliens had achieved perfection at the cost of growth. General Pete Williams launched Operation Wildcard, which sent human strike teams to attack alien supply lines throughout the galaxy. These missions used tactics that no military computer could predict because they were based on human intuition rather than logical analysis. Alien commanders found their supposedly secure bases under attack by forces that appeared from nowhere. Captain Jake Morrison led one such mission against a Zilani fuel depot in a distant star system. His ship, the UE's Defiant, approached the heavily defended facility by hiding inside the tail of a comet. The alien sensors detected the comet but ignored it as a natural phenomenon that posed no threat. The attack began when Jake's ship emerged from the comet's tail and opened fire on the depot's main reactor. The explosion destroyed enough fuel to power a fleet for months and sent shockwaves through the alien command structure. How could primitive humans strike at targets hundreds of light years from their homeworld? Lisa Parker commanded a stealth mission to infiltrate an alien research station and steal their quantum communication technology. Her team used human bioquantum computers to crack alien security codes in minutes rather than the years it would have taken conventional systems. The aliens never realized their most secret data had been copied until it was too late. Dr. Kevin Stone made the breakthrough that changed the course of the war when his team successfully merged human creativity with alien technology to create something entirely new. They developed adaptive weapons that could learn from each battle and evolve to counter enemy defenses more effectively than any static system. The first test of the new weapons came during a battle at the edge of Zilani. Space War Commander Rick Davis led a squadron of upgraded human fighters against an alien patrol fleet. The human weapons began the engagement firing conventional energy beams but adapted in real time as they encountered alien shields. By the end of the battle, the human weapons were firing coherent streams of quantum energy that passed through alien shields as if they did not exist. The Zilani computers tried to adapt their defenses, but the human weapons evolved faster than alien systems could respond. Every shot learned from the previous one. Admiral Vextar realized that his empire faced an enemy unlike anything in galactic history when his own flagship came under attack from a single human vessel. Captain Maria Rodriguez piloted her fighter through the Zilani defense fleet using maneuvers that seemed to violate the laws of physics. Her ship twisted through space in patterns that alien sensors could not track while her weapons fired in directions that targeting computers said were impossible. She destroyed 3 Zilani cruisers before disappearing into hyperspace, leaving behind only confused alien commanders who could not explain what had happened. The war escalated when other alien species joined the Zilani in what they called a crusade to contain the human contagion before it could spread to other primitive worlds. The Vorthic Empire contributed their reality-warping weapons while the Christek Collective added their planet-killing battle stations to the growing alien alliance. Colonel Ben Harris found himself commanding the defense of Mars when an alien fleet of 200 ships attempted to establish a forward base in the outer solar system. His orbital platforms were outnumbered 10-1, but they possessed something no alien force could match, which was the ability to improvise and adapt during battle. The engagement began with the aliens using their most powerful weapons, including devices that could tear apart matter at the quantum level. They expected the human defenses to collapse immediately under such overwhelming firepower. Instead, they found their weapons being absorbed and redirected back at them with interest. Dr. Susan Miller coordinated the battle from her command center, using bioquantum computers that thought faster than any alien artificial intelligence. Her systems analyzed enemy tactics in real time and developed countermeasures that turned alien strengths into weaknesses. The breakthrough came when Amy Nelson implemented a strategy she called organized chaos, where human forces appeared to move randomly but actually followed complex mathematical patterns that only quantum computers could calculate. Alien fleets found themselves surrounded and cut off from support without understanding how it had happened. The tide turned decisively when Dr. Stone's adaptive technology reached its full potential and human weapons began evolving during combat at a rate that alien systems could not match. Energy beams became plasma streams, which became quantum disruptors, which became reality warpers, all within the span of a single battle. Jake Morrison led the final assault on the alien command ship, using a tactic that no sane military officer would have attempted. He flew his vessel directly into the enemy's main weapons array, trusting his quantum armor to protect him while he attacked from inside their defensive perimeter. The alien flagship exploded in a cascade of secondary detonations as its perfect systems failed catastrophically when faced with an attack they had not been designed to handle. The surviving alien ships retreated in disorder, their commanders finally understanding that they faced an enemy that could not be defeated by conventional means. As reports of human victories reached the Ptah Galactic Council, the established order began to crumble as primitive species throughout the galaxy started to question why they should submit to beings who claimed superiority but could not even defeat other primitives. The age of alien dominance was ending, and the human revolution had only just begun. The Galactic Council chamber erupted in chaos as representatives from 8 different species argued about how to deal with the human threat that was spreading across their carefully ordered civilization. Ancient alliances crumbled as some species called for negotiation while others demanded the complete extermination of humanity before their revolutionary ideas could infect other primitive worlds. Dr. Alan Carter sat in his laboratory on Earth, studying alien prisoners captured during recent battles, and what he learned changed everything humanity thought about their enemies. The advanced species had been using the same technology for so long that they had forgotten how to innovate or think creatively about solving problems. Prisoner interrogations reveal that alien engineers simply followed instructions programmed into their computers thousands of years ago. When something broke, they replaced it with an identical part rather than trying to improve the design. The concept of experimentation or taking risks had been bred out of their cultures in favor of safe, predictable results. Captain Jake Morrison received orders to lead the most daring mission in human history when intelligence reports indicated that the aliens were preparing to use their ultimate weapon against Earth. The Galactic Council had authorized the deployment of a reality bomb that could erase entire star systems from existence. The weapon was housed in a massive station at the center of the galaxy, surrounded by the combined fleets of 6 alien species. No military force had ever successfully attacked such a heavily defended target, but Jake knew that conventional thinking was exactly what the aliens expected and prepared for. Lisa Parker worked with Dr. Kevin Stone to develop a new type of stealth technology that did not hide human ships from alien sensors, but instead made them invisible to alien understanding. The vessels would appear on every scanner, but alien computers would classify them as natural phenomena or harmless debris. The breakthrough came when they realized that alien artificial intelligence systems were programmed to ignore anything that did not fit the predetermined categories of threats. A human ship that registered as a metallic asteroid would be dismissed automatically, even if it was obviously artificial to any thinking being. General P. Williams coordinated simultaneous attacks on alien supply lines throughout the galaxy, using tactics that violated every principle of military strategy ever written. Human strike teams appeared at random locations with no apparent pattern, attacking targets that seemed to have no strategic value. The aliens tried desperately to find the logic behind human strategy, but there was none in any conventional sense. Humans attacked fuel depots while ignoring weapons factories, then destroyed communication stations while leaving military bases untouched. The seemingly random strikes created a supply crisis that crippled alien operations. Commander Rick Davis led a fleet of modified human ships that had been designed to look like merchant vessels or exploration craft. When alien patrols encountered these ships, their computers classified them as non-military targets and ignored them completely. By the time the aliens realized their mistake, human warriors were already inside their defensive perimeters. The war reached a turning point when Captain Maria Rodriguez captured an alien artificial intelligence core during a raid on a Zelani research facility. The device contained thousands of years of accumulated knowledge about galactic civilization, including the deepest fears that the advanced species never spoke about publicly. Dr. Susan Miller analyzed the captured data and discovered that the entire galactic order was built on a lie that the advanced species told themselves to justify their superiority over primitive worlds. They claimed to be highly evolved beings, but in reality they were stagnant creatures who had stopped growing thousands of years ago. The artificial intelligence revealed that many alien species lived in constant terror of the implications of human adaptability and innovation. If primitive creatures could develop technology that surpassed their own achievements, then what did that say about the entire foundation of galactic civilization? Admiral Vextar found himself questioning everything he had believed about Zelani superiority when his flagship was attacked by a single human pilot who seemed to bend the laws of physics with every maneuver. The primitive creature flew through his defensive formations as if they were standing still, while weapons that should have been impossible struck his vessels with perfect accuracy. The captured alien data also revealed the location and nature of the reality bomb that threatened Earth, along with detailed information about its defensive systems. Jake Morrison studied the intelligence reports and realized that the weapon's greatest strength was also its most critical weakness. The reality bomb was protected by automated defense systems that had been programmed to stop any conceivable attack, using mathematical models that predicted every possible threat. However, the alien programmers had never imagined an enemy that would attack in ways that made no logical sense. Colonel Ben Harris volunteered to lead the assault team that would attempt to destroy the reality bomb, even though the mission was essentially a suicide run. His ships would have to penetrate 6 layers of defensive systems while facing the combined firepower of the largest alien fleet ever assembled. The attack began when human ships appeared throughout the galaxy, simultaneously striking at targets that alien commanders initially dismissed as random acts of terrorism. Only when it was too late did they realize that every strike had been carefully calculated to draw defending forces away from the central station. Amy Nelson coordinated the diversionary attacks using a strategy she called controlled chaos, where every human action appeared random but served a specific purpose in the overall plan. Alien fleets found themselves chasing shadows while their most important installations were left vulnerable. Jake Morrison led the main assault force using ships that had been modified with the most advanced adaptive technology humanity possessed. His vessels changed their appearance and energy signatures continuously so that alien targeting systems could never lock onto them for more than a few seconds. The final approach to the reality bomb station required flying through a debris field of destroyed ships that had attempted the same mission over thousands of years. Jake's fleet navigated the graveyard using intuition and split-second timing that no computer could have calculated. Dr. Stone's adaptive weapons reached their full potential during the battle as human technology evolved in real time to counter every alien defense system. Energy shields became useless when human beams learned to pass through them, and armor plating failed when projectiles adapted to exploit molecular weaknesses. The climactic moment came when Jake's team reached the reality bomb itself and discovered that the weapon was controlled by an alien artificial intelligence that had been running the same programs for over 10,000 years. The machine was incredibly sophisticated but completely inflexible in its responses to unexpected situations. Lisa Parker interfaced her bioquantum computer directly with the alien system and began introducing chaos patterns that the ancient programming could not process. The artificial intelligence tried to adapt, but its responses became increasingly erratic as human unpredictability overwhelmed its logical processes. The reality bomb station exploded in a cascade of dimensional distortions as its own weapon turned against itself under the influence of human chaos programming. The massive installation folded in on itself, taking the combined alien fleet with it into a collapsing pocket of twisted space-time. As news of the station's destruction spread throughout the galaxy, the established order began to collapse as primitive. Species everywhere realized that the advanced civilizations were not invincible gods, but frightened creatures clinging to outdated superiority. The human revolution had become unstoppable and would reshape the entire galaxy. The final battle for the future of galactic civilization began when the remaining forces of 8 alien species gathered at the Galactic Council's capital station for what they called the last stand against human chaos. 3,000 ships from across the galaxy formed the largest fleet in recorded history, united by their fear of what humanity represented to their ordered universe. President Helen Brooks stood on the bridge of the UES Evolution, watching the massive alien armada through viewports that showed space itself bending around their assembled fleets. This was no longer about Earth's survival, but about whether the galaxy would continue to be ruled by stagnant perfection or embrace the chaos of growth and change. Admiral Vextar commanded the alien coalition from his rebuilt flagship, knowing that this battle would determine whether his species continued to exist as a galactic power or became just another footnote in the history books. The humans had shattered every assumption about primitive species and forced the advanced civilizations to question their own nature. Dr. Kevin Stone watched his bioquantum computers evolve in real time as they processed battle data and adapted to alien tactics faster than any purely artificial system could manage. The machines had learned to think like humans while processing information at speeds that exceeded organic brains by orders of magnitude. The engagement began with the aliens deploying their most terrifying weapons, including reality warpers that could delete matter from existence and dimensional bombs that collapsed space-time into crushing singularities. They were determined to end the human threat regardless of the cost to themselves or the surrounding star systems. Captain Jake Morrison led the human fleet in ships that no longer looked entirely human after years of continuous adaptation and evolution during warfare. The vessels had incorporated captured alien technology but modified it according to human principles of chaos and unpredictability rather than alien logic and order. The alien weapons struck human shields and simply disappeared as adaptive defenses learned to absorb and redirect energy attacks in ways that violated every known law of physics. Dr. Susan Miller's quantum processing systems analyzed incoming fire and developed countermeasures in microseconds, turning alien strengths into human advantages. Commander Rick Davis piloted fighters that moved through space like living creatures, twisting and turning in patterns that seemed impossible but followed mathematical principles that only bioquantum computers could understand. His squadron struck at alien formations from directions that targeting systems said were geometrically impossible. The battle reached its climax when the aliens deployed their ultimate weapon, which was a device that could rewrite the fundamental constants of physics within a localized area. They intended to create a zone where human technology would simply stop working while alien systems continued to function normally. Lisa Parker interfaced directly with her bioquantum computer as the reality-altering weapon activated around the human fleet. Instead of being destroyed by the changing physics, her ships began to adapt to the new conditions faster than the weapon could alter them. Human technology evolved in real time to match whatever reality the aliens created. Captain Maria Rodriguez led the assault on the alien command station, flying her ship through impossible spatial geometries while her adaptive weapons learned to function in whatever version of physics they encountered. Her vessel twisted through dimensions that should not have existed while striking targets that occupied multiple realities. Simultaneously, the turning point came when the alien artificial intelligence systems began to overload as they tried to process the implications of human adaptability. Their logical programming could not accept the reality of technology that evolved during use or weapons that became more effective the longer they were fired. Colonel Ben Harris commanded the orbital battle platforms that had followed the human fleet to the galactic capital using mobility systems based on controlled space-time distortions. His weapons did not fire projectiles or energy beams, but instead manipulated the basic structure of reality itself. Dr. Alan Carter monitored the battle from the Evolution Science Station and realized that the aliens were not really fighting humanity, but were instead battling their own fear of change and growth. The advanced species had achieved perfection at the cost of evolution and now faced beings who embodied everything they had abandoned. The climactic moment arrived when President Brooks herself took command of the final assault and broadcast a message to every being in the galaxy, both human and alien. Her words were simple but carried the weight of a species that had never accepted limitations or bowed to supposedly superior forces. She spoke of humanity's journey from primitive caves to the stars and reminded everyone listening that true advancement came not from achieving perfection, but from having the courage to keep growing and changing. The aliens had called humans primitive because they were different, but different did not mean inferior. The alien coalition began to collapse as individual species realized that they were fighting not for survival, but for the right to remain stagnant and unchanging. Some vessels broke formation and fled, while others simply stopped firing as their crews questioned why they were trying to destroy beings who offered growth instead of conquest. Admiral Vextar found himself alone on his flagship as his own officers refused to continue a war that had become about preventing evolution rather than protecting civilization. The insect-like alien finally understood that humanity's greatest threat to galactic order was not their weapons or their technology, but their refusal to accept that progress had ended. The battle ended not with explosions or surrender, but with a moment of perfect silence as both sides realized that the old universe was dying and something new was being born. Jake Morrison's fleet and the remaining alien ships floated in space, watching each other across a gulf that separated two completely different ways of understanding existence. Aftermath brought changes that none of the participants had expected. As alien species throughout the galaxy began experimenting with human concepts of innovation and adaptation, young aliens who had never been allowed to think creatively started questioning the rigid systems that had governed their civilizations for millennia. The Galactic Council was dissolved and replaced with a new organization based on cooperation, rather than hierarchy where species were valued for their contributions rather than their technological advancement. Humanity took its place not as conquerors, but as teachers who showed the galaxy that there was always room to grow. The final scene showed human children and alien younglings playing together on the former council station, creating games that combined human chaos with alien logic in ways that produced something entirely new. The future belonged not to the perfect, but to those brave enough to remain imperfect and growing. President Brooks stood watching the mixed groups of children and smiled as she realized that humanity had won not by becoming like their enemies, but by remaining true to themselves. They had been called primitive and had proven their accusers wrong, not through conquest, but through the simple act of never stopping their evolution towards something better.